Hello, God bless Ma'am. This is my PowerPoint presentation of Ethical Philosophy of Saint Thomas Aquinas from Module 3. Chapter 2, The Natural Law, Saint Thomas Aquinas. Albert Camus opened his 1942 seminal book, The Myth of Sisyphus, by posing the question, why will I not kill myself today? Locally, such a dramatic recognition of the sorry condition of the world is echoed by a column of Rina Jimenez David in the daily broadsheet Philippine Daily Inquirer on 25 October 2003, when in frustration, she asked, why would we not just close down the Philippines? Albert Camus was an Algerian-born French philosopher, author, dramatist, and journalist. He was awarded the 1957 Nobel Prize in Literature at the age of 44, the second youngest recipient in history. Saint Thomas Aquinas was an Italian Dominican friar and priest who was an immensely influential philosopher, theologian, and jurist in the tradition of scholasticism. Thomas in 1248 studied with Albert the Great in Cologne. Thomas later became a master of theology in the university, and the remaining 18 years of his life were spent on lectures, instructions, writings, and good debates. Our present age is not impervious to such attacks of absurdity, frustration, exerted effort in pointing out a viable way out of such darkness and confusion. Thomas died on March 7, 1274, leaving with behind him notable works like Summa contra Gentiles, Summa Theologiae, and De Veritate. Chapter 2, The Natural Law, Saint Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas begins from the standpoint of faith. His perspective presupposes the existence of a God who is the author and goal of all reality. This creator of Thomas, however, relates in freedom with a human person and so enables him or her in freedom to recognize true reason, the very principle of foundations of all things. This creator of Thomas, however, relates in freedom with a human person and so enables him or her in freedom to recognize true reason. One cannot do right thing if one does not know what it is. The famous dictate then to follow the conscience absolutely is tied to an obligation to educate it. Not knowing Saint Thomas is not an excuse. Even if one does not know, he or she is obliged to know. The reality then of life as growth, nutrition, and reproduction is founded on the will that is eternal. Even the reality of sensitive consciousness as ruled by instinct that is true of animals is also in accordance with the same will. The relationship between the eternal and natural law for him or her is expressed in the sacred book for Christians thus. Since the creation of the world, God's invisible will, His power and nature, has been clearly seen being understood from what has been made visible, so that people are without excuse. Not all that is legal human society reflects the law that dictates on the human person as ethical in accordance with natural law. What is legal then is not always necessarily moral. Those who came up with the expression "Ecce Deus non daritur" do not advocate atheism or protest against the faith. They simply mean that the deposit of knowledge or divine wisdom that comes to us as natural law, is valid in itself and is therefore the reasonable code of conduct even for a man of good will who may be without faith. One cannot do the right thing if one does not know what it is. The famous dictate then to follow the conscience absolutely is tied to an obligation to educate it. Not knowing St. Thomas is not an excuse. Even if one does not know, he or she is obliged to know. The uninformed conscience simply lacks education, while the perplexed one needs guidance in sorting out one's confusion. The callous and scrupulous are binary opposites, but both are malformed in being too lax or too strict. Scrupulousness, on the other hand, fails to trust one's ability to do good, and hence overly concerns itself with avoiding what is bad to the point of seeing wrong where there really is none. Who am I? This assessment of one's own strengths and weaknesses is critical in being able to do good and avoid evil. This ethical task is not only an outward truth. Who do I want to be? The human reason is so gifted that it is able to discern true options and daily realities. Decisions are the basis of one's freedom in choosing what one wants to be. How can I get there? The human person does not only access reason to assess his or her personal identity and personal goal. He or she is also gifted with a will to command the self to go through the steps and hence be able to do the transition from knowledge to a fully determined self. The rational and perfection. The autonomy of ethics from faith afforded a level of discipline reflection that enables man to not only copy the perfection that is guide and apply it to himself or herself and his or her surroundings. The independence that is given in the ethical order also allows the human person in particularity to be himself or herself as the singular subject that he or she is. He or she is not designed to find perfection on his or her own but thoroughly relates with other human persons and all creation. He or she is not designed to be a Paris who is perfect unto himself or herself. Whether one was a believer or not, one could see that there is the order which is ground of people's wholeness and self-realization. However, as Western civilization evolved, other theories also evolved which insisted that the function of norms for the good should be rooted in human reason alone.